No one prepares us for this, for that confusing feeling of wanting to talk, but not knowing how to start. For that knot in your stomach when you think, what if they don't understand? What if they take it the wrong way? What if they just pull away? Menopause doesn't just change our bodies. It turns our relationship with desire, pleasure, and intimacy upside down, and yet we carry on as if everything's fine, as if it's easier to pretend nothing's happening than admit we need something different. But you know what? Talking about sex at this stage shouldn't bring shame or guilt. Quite the opposite. It can be the key to reconnecting with ourselves and with our partner. The problem is, for years we were taught to keep quiet, to be pleasing, to stay silent, not to bother anyone with our emotions. And of course, now that the body's changing and desire doesn't always arrive with fireworks, we feel like something's wrong with us. But it's not. What's wrong is the silence that pushes us to feel alone just when we need understanding the most. Sometimes silence hurts more than uncomfortable words, because when we don't speak about how we feel, we leave room for misunderstandings, for the other person to imagine things that aren't true, to think we don't love them anymore, that we've lost interest, when in reality we're craving the opposite, a different kind of closeness. A slower touch, a more honest conversation. But how do you say that without hurting anyone? Well, first of all, you don't need to have a perfect speech. It's not about giving a lecture or explaining yourself, it's about sharing. Saying this is what's happening to me, even if you don't have all the answers. Because you don't need a medical diagnosis to talk about how you feel in bed. And even less to express what you need. Desire hasn't vanished. It's just changed shape. And that's not something to be ashamed of. It's something worth talking about. Look, a lot of women feel like they don't work like they used to, and that makes them avoid sex or even talking about it. But you know what? You don't have to work like you used to. You're not broken, you're transitioning, and your partner isn't a mind reader. If you don't share what you're going through, they'll keep thinking nothing's changed, or worse, that you don't fancy them anymore. And that's where the real problem begins. Not with the physical change, but with the lack of communication. Of course, it takes courage to sit down and say, "There's something I'd like to talk about," because it's scary to appear vulnerable or to get a reaction that feels dismissive or cold. But honestly, that chat, awkward as it might be at first, can open doors that have been shut for years. It can be the beginning of a new kind of intimacy, one that's more honest, slower, more truly yours. And it's not just about the physical side. Menopause brings a cocktail of emotions that can impact desire too: tiredness, anxiety, mood swings. The most beautiful thing about talking about sex at this stage is that it gives you a chance to build an intimacy that actually feels like you, without ticking boxes, without pretending, without performing. And yes, maybe your partner won't get it straight away. Maybe it'll take time. But if there's love, if there's a real connection, there'll be room for that conversation, even room to rediscover each other, to explore new ways of touching, of holding, of being present for one another, without rushing towards a finish line. Before we continue, something important: in the description of this video, I've left a resource that could really help you through this stage. It's something several women are starting to use and are seeing real changes. If you're curious, have a look later. It might be just what you need. And here's where it gets really interesting. So often when we finally break the ice and dare to speak up, we realize we weren't alone in this. That our partner has also been feeling the change, even if they don't know how to name it. That they too have fears, doubts, insecurities. Maybe they've noticed that our body responds differently. Maybe they've wondered if we still fancy them, but because no one says anything, each person stays stuck in their own story, and that distance grows colder, harder to cross. That's why it's so important to put words to what we feel. Because if we don't talk, we end up acting, pretending everything's fine when inside we're falling apart, or we simply disconnect bit by bit. Not because love is gone, but because truth is missing. And in a relationship, that's more harmful than any menopause symptom. But it's not just about talking more, it's also about how we talk. This kind of conversation doesn't happen in the middle of chaos, with the telly blaring or when someone's distracted. You've got to choose the moment carefully, a space where you can both really listen without putting your guard up, where it's not about pointing fingers or blaming what's not working, it's about sharing what you need. And that takes tenderness, not just towards your partner, but towards yourself. Because yes, you might get emotional, your voice might shake, and that's okay. It's all part of the process. Even a simple sentence like "I'd love us to talk about how we've been feeling lately" can open up an entire universe. You don't need a script, just honesty. Say you're going through changes, that your body's different now, yes, but that doesn't mean you've stopped wanting intimacy. Quite the opposite. Maybe now you crave it in a more emotional, slower, more connected way. Maybe now you need more cuddles, more words, more presence, and less pressure. And if your partner reacts with discomfort, don't see it as rejection. Sometimes men don't know how to talk about this either. They also carry the weight of that old model of sex, fast, mechanical, without nuance. They too can feel that if something changes, something must be wrong. But if you give them the chance to really listen, to join you in this new rhythm, many discover the bond actually deepens. That sex stops being a performance test and becomes a real space of connection. And if you don't have a partner, don't skip this video, because all of this starts with you, with the relationship you have with yourself, with how you speak to yourself, how you see yourself, how you give yourself permission. So many women think that if there's no one else involved, there's nothing left to explore, but it's actually the other way round. This is the perfect time to reconnect with yourself, free from outside pressures, to find out what you like, what turns you on, what soothes you, to rediscover your body through pleasure, not duty. Menopause doesn't kill desire, it transforms it, makes it more subtle, wiser, more demanding of honesty. And that truth belongs to you. No one else gets to tell you how you should feel or what you should want. So if today you're not in the mood, that's fine. And if tomorrow you are, that's fine too. What matters is that you can express it without guilt, without apologizing, without measuring your worth by how high your libido is. Because really, this stage can be a wonderful opportunity to rebuild intimacy from a completely different place, to drop the masks, the pressure, the borrowed scripts, to create something that feels like you, that nourishes you, that gives you peace. And yes, it's scary sometimes, and yes, it hurts too, but it's also freeing. And that freedom, that ability to say this is me now and be accepted, is priceless. So next time you feel something has changed, don't keep it to yourself. Don't think you're failing. Think, I'm evolving. My body and my desire are writing a new chapter, and I have every right and all the power to say it out loud.